Cancel.
Schweezy.
You bet I'm coming up in May.
Oh, you bet. We're going to talk about this. So I saw Rob Anderson on TikTok. You should go follow him. He's been doing this series. He's been rewatching Seventh Heaven. And I was like, that happened in that show? Because I remember, I watched that show with my mom. Like, my mom would watch it. And for some reason, my brother watched it too with her. I don't know. My dad may have been there. God knows what he was doing. Like, the Seventh Heaven, it was like, shh, don't ask me questions on the commercials. I'm like, all right, Mom. That's a cool thing. I'm so glad you can pause TV now. Like, you can just pause shit. It's so nice. Anyways, though, so I decided to talk about Seventh Heaven today. I watched all the best episodes, according to the internet. And so, therefore, I am now qualified to talk about the entire series. I do need to. I want to watch the last episode of the show. Apparently, there's 2 last episodes, so you kind of have to go through there and shit like that. So here's what the show's about. The series follows Reverend Eric Camden, a Protestant minister living in a fictional town of Glen Oak, California, and his wife, Annie, as they deal with the drama of raising 7 children ranging in age from babies to adults with families of their own. So, yeah, the beginning of the series is a lot of the episodes I watched. That's where all, like, the good shit was. Because it went from being, like, Christian show to, like, kind of like a family drama where the dad's, like, a minister and, whatever. It's just, like, nonsense drama, people are about, people are all on about. But, like, it's a fictional town, and this fictional town has two types of people. God-fearing Christians, and the other half is just gang members. Just, like, brutal gangs, the worst gangs you've ever seen in his life. Like, it's just, like, the worst people. Drug addicts, alcoholics, like, those people. But like the very extreme of both those situations. Like, I don't know a lot of people who are joining gangs these days. Maybe I didn't know too much about the gang, but like gangs, like in this show, because I like look back. Oh yeah, the '90s there was like a gang kids were like joining gangs, and I was like, that doesn't unless you're either gonna be in a gang, you're kind of born in, or it's a long story. But yeah, I forgot how bad of a problem gangs used to be. Now I guess it's not a problem anymore, or we just decided to get over it. Whatever. So like, and then this pastor is like the moral like conscience of everybody, which is cool, like for the show. But the actor Stephen Collins, he diddled kids, like, and he's admitted to it. There's been investigations. He's admitted to it that he's diddled kids, and also that's why his hairline looks the way it does throughout the entire series. He said the last child he diddled was before Seventh Heaven. So that's the crazy thing. But yeah. The nice thing about this show is, or not a nice thing, but I think what drew my mother into the show was the fact that it's a very Christian show, and they don't. It's good because it's like our moral grounds are Christians, and it's being Christians are good. It was like really the good people are Christians type of show, and the Christians are good people, and if you're not a Christian, you're a bad person. I like that kind of show is like what I like to call Christian fan fiction, but this is fan fiction for made up people. So. And shit like that, because as we get into it, I wrote down all my favorite episodes that I watched, or the goofiest ones, which are pretty much both in the same, about Seventh Heaven and how it's basically just Christian fan fiction, Christian sitcoms or Christian dramas, But anyways, though, it's bad and it's good because like I started to feel like all the people in the show are my family. I don't know. It drew you in. It has a way of drawing you in. But you're like, oh, this is stupid. I can't stop watching. All right. First episode we're going to talk about that I think is just an infamous episode. season 2, episode 4. Who knew? The infamous weed episode. So that's probably the most popular in Seventh Heaven. Watches the time the dad finds a joint and like accuses his kid of smoking. So here's how the episode goes, because I know you wanna know how season 2, episode 4. Who knew? I watched it on Hulu. It's on Hulu. I'm gonna tell you that. The first 4 seasons are on Hulu, and then the rest are on Paramount Plus. I don't have Paramount Plus. I just found them online and watched them. So here's what I wrote down for the bio. Okay, so first, a dude at school. So like it was Matt and then just other dudes. Like, hey, you want to come hang out? And Matt's like, maybe. I don't know. I gotta study and do stuff. We're like, all right, man. If you can, just let me know. And I was like, okay. And oh yeah, here's a joint. And so the kid just hands him a joint. People don't usually give out joints like that. What they do is like they'll pass you the joint to smoke it. Okay, so that's typically how that would work. The guy just gives him a joint, and Matt just like puts it in his pocket for some reason. He's like, okay. And then like when he gets home, he pets the dog, Happy, best character in the show, Happy. And the joint falls out of his shirt pocket onto the ground. All right. Then Happy puts it in her mouth. I think Happy's a her. Just sorry for my microaggressions if I got the misgendered. And then like put it in her mouth and then dropped it for the dad, who freaked out about it. So then then they go to their room and then they talk, the mom and the dad. I think Annie's the mom's name. So like they go into their room and then they put the joint in like her dresser, like the mom's dresser. And then Mary and Lucy are looking through mom's jewelry for some reason. So they go to the drawer and they see the joint. And they think they're dead. So now they think the mom's smoking weed, and all the kids are. And let's not forget the kids. Was it Matt, the oldest one? He was just pounding down cookies. Then there was Mary, who eyes were red because Lucy burned incense. And remember, burning incense is to cover up the weed smell. I actually used incense to actually make places smell good. Maybe that is why you use incense. But anyways, so yeah, it was Matt's joint, but he never intended to smoke it. It went from the Matt's pocket to the dog, to Pastor Diddler, then to Mother's dresser. Then Mary and Lucy found it, put it back. So they think their mom's smoking weed. The dad's wondering which child is smoking weed. And then in all the middle of that, Annie, the mom, confessed that when she was a kid, she smoked weed once. And Pastor Diddler about just lost. Like, I can't believe you did this to me. I'm like, okay, it's weed, okay? Y'all should just calm the fuck down. It's weed, okay? It's like, they're like, there's meth in our house. I'm like, okay, that's a bad thing. Weed, whatever, shut the fuck up. And so there's a big confrontation in the living room with the whole family, even baby Ruthie. And you know what? I'm going to say it. Ruthie was better younger. Than when she got older, they tried to make her like the smart person. I don't know. So we have the whole family's in the room. And so Pastor Diddler pulls out the joint. Does anyone want to explain this to me? And then Mary and Lucy are like, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I have to hear this, but we found that in Mom's dresser. And then Dad's like, I know, I was the one who found it, and then she put it there. And then the kids are like, oh, it's relieving. And so that leaves Matt being like, fuck, now it's me. He's like, and then they had a fight without talking about it, and he left. Then he went to the church to pray, and their dad and mom went to the church to pray too, and they saw him monologuing out loud, confessing about what happened in regards to, he was like, I never intended to smoke it. It was just given to me, like the actual backstory. And the whole thing's resolved. It's just all resolved. So that's the infamous weed episode. Therefore, I say, here's to feeling good all the time, folks. Okay. Okay, so that's that episode. No, next one, season 1, episode 10, last call for Aunt Julie. And at first I thought it was they were calling her Judy, and I was like, oh, I have two Aunt Judys. True story. My mom has a sister named Judy, and my dad has a sister named Judy. That's all it is. I have two Aunt Judy. That's like the whole story. It's just very common name at the time. So anyway, so this is Pastor Diddler's sister, Julie. So she comes to town, fun Aunt Julie, giving the kids cool gifts and shit and having fun with them. But turns out she has a drinking problem. Aunt Julie has a drinking problem. And so, like, she was sneaking over to the liquor cabinet. And then shit hits the fan when Simon was a little kid at this point. And he's like, I got the key, Aunt Julie. And then so they're playing around or whatever. And Aunt Judy, like pulls him up and, like, slams him down trying to get the key. And they're like, Aunt Julie's an alcoholic. She's like, leave our house. And then find her at a bar. And so basically that's what happens. So that's how they learn that Aunt Julie, she basically lost her job and her partner, I think they said husband or partner, to her alcoholism, and that she's sick, shit like that. So, like, yeah, you realize she has a problem. And so they could have made a really good lesson of, like, how you treat a family member who has an alcohol problem. Like, the best thing would be to get help. And, and to a degree, this Christian fan fiction did help Aunt Julie get help. But instead of taking her to the hospital, because alcohol withdrawal can be very dangerous. I've never gotten to that point in my life of drinking. I've been sober I haven't drank alcohol in a week. And just basically with withdrawal, that could be really bad. You can have seizures and shit like that. So it needs to be done in, like, a hospital or whatever. But Pastor Diddler was like, nah, she'll just check herself out, start drinking again. So we're going to do this in our home. And so they lock her in the home, have her detox, and she has crazy outbursts like, Gollum, I hate you. He hates us. Just like weird shit like that. So they detox her, and apparently it works, and Aunt Julie is never seen again on the show. I don't think they ever do an episode again with Aunt Julie. I think Aunt Julie died shortly after the show. Back when shows didn't have to follow continuity. Then there's season 2, episode 2. These are out of, like, in random orders. See you in September. It's like the first day of school. Ruthie likes to wear her hat backwards. And the school has a policy against, like, gang affiliated fashion. So with her hat backwards, it's really bad. She's in a gang. It's kindergarten, first day of kindergarten. She's in a gang. That's what happens. Ruthie, the small child, is in a gang. Then a kid named Peter McKinley. That's just Ruthie's arc throughout the episode. There's way too many storylines throughout each episode, so I only really go over some of my favorite ones. So some kid named Peter McKinley is going to jump off his apartment building. And, the cops were there because they saw a guy about to jump off a building to kill himself. And so they're like, Pastor Diddler, please come here because you're the Christian moral conscience of our community. He's like, I'm on my way. He's trying there to de-escalate the situation with a child, which is also weird. They do that. And Simon, in the episode, Simon brought his kitchen silverware to school, like the kitchen knife, like a knife he'd use to, like, cut steak or whatever with a chicken. First of all, you don't need that kind of knife for chicken. But with the kid jumping off the roof, the reason why is because he didn't like the clothes his mom was buying. His mom's Kitty Foreman too. He didn't like the clothes his mom was buying him. That was probably one of my favorite. I was just like, you thought, like, your clothes are fine. No, I look like a fucking dork. And then, like, Pastor Diddler's in the background. I was like, yeah, he kind of does. Yeah, So yeah. There's season 3, episode 8, No Sex, Some Drugs, and a Little Rock and Roll. The infamous episode where Simon gets addicted to coffee, and he gets in that. Mary also gets almost hooked on a pill. It has, what did I say? It has, like, an ingredient in it, and it's like one ingredient away from meth, and it's just like, yeah, you can just buy this in a health food store. I'm like, okay, I don't think that's true. And is it like a health food store that was like two trailers that are put together? That health food store? If I say that, yeah, that's probably the health food store you buy this from. But it's like normally packaged drugs, and like theoretically, yeah, they do look like they could be bad, or whatever. But like, yeah, basically meth in pill form, which I always thought, like Adderall, isn't that meth in pill form? Like for ADHD, like just a little bit of meth, just a little bit of meth to help things out. Yeah. So, but in this episode, Pastor Diddler's old rock band. He was in a rock band apparently. You know, he's like a pastor who has gone to college, so he is an intellectual pastor. He went to college, but he was also in a rock band. He gave up the rock band career to be a pastor and have a family. And it's a very big band. He thinks they're smoking weed at one point. But or not, it just turns out he's smoking cigarettes. He's like, you better not be smoking weed in my family-friendly neighborhood, even though I've diddled kids and shit like that. And yeah, it's just cigarettes. But yeah, we don't smoke weed. We haven't done that stuff in years. Even though like the show's in California, and like I've always known California to be very pro weed. Like they were, I think it was like Colorado may have been I also hear Colorado is very pro weed too, but yeah, like California, and they're like, yeah, they're just called by like the brand, like the type of leaves they are or whatever. And it's like that's a indica martialis or whatever. I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. Yeah, they just call it by the name. There's like, got some indica. I don't like the more specific. Also, way too much weed. Like for how many slang terms there are for weed, we gotta slow them down, folks. We're like making up new words. Toke. I learned toke was one last night. That's not. We gotta figure new shit out. That's all we gotta do. Yeah. So this show's not very pro weed. Season 6 of 13. It's like one I had to go out of my way to find. It's called Drunk. Simon. So Simon went to a party and he's like, yeah, you know, he's not really the kid. He's like, I'm not interested in drinking. Then like kids like trick him into drinking like spiked punch, you know, and he's drunk till he gets home, and then like his siblings are able to sober him up or whatever, but like, yeah, they like the parents find out and shit like that. It's like Simon's like, I made the decision on my own. I was drinking it and got tricked into drinking it, and I just left it in my body. I didn't immediately try to throw it up, but it might have been absorbed into my bloodstream at that point. I was like, okay, Simon. No, that was a cool episode. All right, season 4, episode 7. All right, so this episode's called Sin. Simon gets caught by like, oh yeah, Simon like it's like him and his friends are just goofing around and like, and then he flips off his friends like, look, I did it too. I did it on camera, and like what Simon did like broke his mother's heart. Like what he did, it's just like his friends goofing around. It's not like even doing it, not even using it he's kind of using it in the right way, but not as in an offensive way. And then Ruthie then decides to go like flip off her brother Matt, and Matt almost has a heart attack too. So like flipping people off in Seventh Heaven universe in this small town probably worse than cancer. I would say flipping someone off is worse than cancer. So I think that's probably why. I remember like flipping people off isn't as bad as it used to be. It's just because like every band has a photo of them flipping you off, you know. It is what it is, and the episode's called Sin too. Something else may have happened in the episode. I can't remember. I didn't write that part down. The last one I think I have is season 2, episode 12. That is Rush to Judgment. This one's a weird episode. So it's kind of sad, but also it's kind of weird too. So the church treasurer, he took $2,500 out of the church account because he needed some money, like. He was going to get the money, but like he needed it earlier than later. So he took money from the church bank account. And then what the treasurer was going to do is like once he actually gets the money or whatever, he's going to just put it back. Hopefully nothing happens. But Pastor Diddler's wife, Annie, she looks at the church computer and or like the little laptop they have that's like the chunkiest thing you've ever seen, and they're like, "See, it looks like $2,500 is missing," and they're like, "Oh no!" And then the guy reveals he took the money and was hoping to get it back in there before anyone found out, is because he has an autistic son who needed to move into a new care facility. Like, and the autistic son is like, he was secret the whole time. Like, no one knew he had an autistic son. Like, he was just there. So they needed like money in advance to get him like a deposit into a care facility or a waiting list for the care facility. And yeah, so he was just hoping to switch it out, which is like kind of sad and kind of like, luckily, like, obviously, like, Pastor Diddler like understood. I'm like, I'm sorry for this, but you're still welcome. You're still the treasurer. You know, like, at least, you know, next time we can figure it out, you know, if you know what I'm saying. But he was like a very honest guy, so I feel like he kind of already knew the guy, so all's good as well. And oh yeah, and I guess also in the episode, Mary was getting groomed by the basketball coach, and yeah, Matt felt uncomfortable, and then Lucy saw like him give her a hug and felt really uncomfortable. The teacher was also kind of a dick to Matt, so it was like double trouble. So very cool, a lot of cool shit going on there. So Mary was getting groomed by the basketball coach. Like, all I have to say is my final thoughts on Seventh Heaven is that, like, the amount of shit, like, trauma these children have gone through is astronomical. Like this is the amount of trauma. Like, this is like 13 episodes of intervention, 13 different cases into like 7 children. Like, you know, usually like it's like 2 or 3 things that happen that push them over the edge. Like, there are so many traumatic events that happen in these kids' lives. Like, it's sad. But also, this is fake, so who gives a fuck? Thank you for watching this clip.